Howdy y'all, it is your boy Calp here, back at it again with another Warframe video. It's been a while since I've made some content on Warframe, and to return, I wanted to make a new player guide. This is something I've wanted to do in the past, but I failed to do so because I sort of stopped enjoying the game. However, recently I have come back to the game and I wanted to make a new player guide since there was a lot of quality of life changes that were made to the new player experience. So I figured if there was any gaps that are still left in the new player experience, I could probably help fill them in. I've had a lot of hours in this game, so I'm pretty confident in what I'm saying and how I'm presenting this information. Now, I do recommend that you still make your own choices, but if you need a guide, you can use this as a way to help you. I don't want you to make every decision that I make. However, I'll explain why I make the decisions I make because I have knowledge in the field. However, as a new player, you're probably not going to have the same knowledge I do, nor should you try to. I think a great thing about this game is the amount that you can learn while playing it. And so, while I make a decision to maybe I'll go farm out this character, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to go farm out that character as well. Sometimes I just like a character, and this character might not be appealing to you. For instance, let's talk about our starter and who we're going to pick. Most people would recommend that you pick a Vault, or maybe Excalibur. In my opinion, I think a mag is the best choice. Mag is going to be the technical hardest Warframe to get. However, none of them are really hard to obtain. While I will be playing with mag, you don't need to. All the starter frames are pretty powerful in their own right. So hyperfixating on copying exactly what I do should not be a goal with this guide. This guide should help you understand the mechanics of the game and how you engage with the world. With that intro out of the way, let's get started. The first mission is going to be a variety of decisions that you make alongside teaching you how to move in this game. This is just your basic tutorial. I don't think I really need to cover it that much. Just follow the buttons on the screen and pick up the weapons that are most interesting to you. For me, I picked up the bow, which is a staff, the bow, which is a bow and arrow, and the Lado pistol. You don't need to make these choices, but I'll explain why I made the choices I did. The Paris bow, the actual bow, can one-shot a lot of enemies early game, so I opted to pick it up. The Lado pistol, I just like, so I picked that up. Even though I think the knives might be better, I decided to pick up the pistol still. And for the bow staff, I also just like. There wasn't really any reason to why I chose these ones in particular besides the Paris bow. However, if you don't like any of these weapons, you can always just buy the other weapon when you get to your Orbiter. First mission, you'll be brought to your ship. Instantly, it'll tell you to restore the ship's comms. And in this location, this is actually the arsenal. The arsenal is where you're going to swap out most of your gear. You want to swap out your Warframe, your pets, anything that has to do with your loadout, you go to your arsenal, as the name would suggest. Before we start our next mission, I actually want to go over our ship. So, to the left you'll find the Void Relic console. This segment is not online as you enter your ship, however, there's these things called Void Relics that you will acquire throughout the game. These relics hold the pieces to prime parts. If you ever wonder how to get a prime Warframe, a Void Relic is how you do it. You can find all your relics in this station right here. Once we get to the part where we farm relics, we'll go more in depth. Up to the right, we have our mod bench. Our mod bench is also offline, and this will be the area in which we level up our mods. You can also level up your mods in your arsenal. However, if you want to organize all your mods and get rid of any duplicates that you may have, this will be the location to do so. Up next, we have our foundry. This is where we'll craft items and make warframes. The two remaining locations that we have will house our pets. Robotic pets, or sentinels, will be located on the left side, while on the right side we'll have our organic pets, dogs, cats, and anything that isn't a robot. At the front of the ship you can find your navigation. This will take you to your missions. You'll be introduced to a planet, and you can select a mission to go to. However, I do recommend that you may want to leave public matchmaking. If you want to be able to experience things on your own, solo play is the way to go. And in solo play, you're able to pause the game completely. On top of, if you lose internet connection, you'll still stay in your match, and when you reconnect, everything will be fine. In other modes, this isn't the case. In fact, you may be kicked into your own private instance if your internet is acting up. So playing in a solo instance removes that step entirely. From here, you should follow what the quest says and follow all the markers that are on your map. After you complete your first quest, it will ask you to do a Venus Junction. Junctions are these activities that grant you access to new planets, and all of them have requirements to do them. The Venus Junction is pretty straightforward. What you need to do is you need to equip a Dreamer mod. After you do that, you can go back to the area, and then you'll be able to equip a new mod called Deep Freeze. You also need to upgrade your Dreamer's Bond mod, and in doing so, you'll get a Taxion Blueprint. After you get your Taxion Blueprint, you need to start building it. However, before you go into your Venus Junction, I do recommend that you do your Mastery rank up test. Now, what's the importance of doing your Mastery? Well, it gives you more daily standing, it increases your base mod capacity, and it also gives you void traces. On top of this, it gives you access to more weapons that require a higher mastery. In order to gain mastery, you must use new items that you haven't used before. Ideally, getting them to rank 30 before you discard them or save them for a later date. First mastery test is going to ask you to use your primary weapon, which shouldn't be too hard if you have the bow, and quite honestly, it's not very hard with any other weapons either. After you complete your mastery, alongside your Venus Junction, you should have access to your Codex. Your Codex will tell you basically anything that involves the Warframe universe. However, we'll be using it to track our quest and to figure out where we should go next. Now, there are two paths you can go down. You can either go to Venus, to Fortuna, or you can go up on Earth and go to Cetus. In my opinion, I believe going to Fortuna will have the most benefits. However, it is going to be a bit tougher to do the Fortuna side of this tutorial. On this account, I opted to go to Fortuna first, and we're going to cover that side, and why I think it's more important that you go there before you go to Cetus. The reason why we opt to go to Fortuna is for two reasons. One, to get access to a K-Drive, which is a vehicle you can use on open world planes. In addition to that, we're also here to get a drill. Now this drill is the best drill you can get on any planet. So that is why we've opted to come here instead of Cetus first. Drills are important for getting mining materials, and having the best drill that we can get will make our experience a lot easier than it needs to be. In order to get our K-Drive and, by extension, the drill, we need to complete the Vox Solaris quest. I am not going to spoil this quest for you. However, if it comes to a point where it is too difficult to complete this quest, ignore it for now and continue on your star chart, either towards Cetus or past Venus into the next location. For those who are ready to endure and possibly take the L, you need to talk to Smokefinger after completing your Vox Solaris quest. There you can see his inventory, and in that inventory you see this drill. Now, you need reputation to get this drill, but how do you acquire reputation? That is via the bounty system. Bounties are like mini missions on open worlds. You complete them, and the higher difficulty ones give you better rewards and more reputation. However, I should explain something about bounties for the future. Bounties have a rotating loot pool. This loot pool rotates, I believe, every 2 hours. However, you don't really see that information in game on what the loot pools are and when they'll come back. So here is where I'm going to tell you about the Warframe Wiki. The Warframe Wiki is a very powerful resource in discovering information like this. On the surface, it doesn't seem like a player would understand the bounty system unless they were to really pay attention to all the rewards every time they come here. And if you're watching this guide, more likely than not, you are a new player. In either case, the Warframe Wiki will be a valuable resource during this guide as well. For example, let's look at Fortuna's rotating loot pool. As you can see, Fortuna bounties or Orbivalis bounties, you can access them after completing the Vox Solaris quest. Field bounties are accessible by default by Udico or Solaris United agents outside of Fortuna on Orbivalis. These bounties refresh every 2.5 hours. Bonus objectives is given for each mission in the bounty, which additional rewards additional standing if completed. If all bonus objectives are completed, an additional reward will be given out at the final stage, going from the final stage's drop table. As you can see here, there are Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5, Steel Path, and Narmer bounties. These last two you will not have access to in this guide for now. Let's look at the bounties. As you can see here, it gives you a variety of materials and you can see that it's typically the second bar that rotates. You see that during these different stages, you have different materials that you can acquire. And in this one, the bottom row also rotates. For this one, you can see this row rotates alongside the second row rotating. And for this one, you can see that the final objective is the same universally. Now, not all bounties are like this. For example, for the tier 2 bounty, you can see the stage 3 final objective have 3 different mods. These mods are part of what we call set mods. Synth mods, mecha mods, and tech mods are pretty strong mods, and if you can get access to them early into the game, you'll become an even stronger player. Now, what do each of these mods do? For synth mods, any primary or secondary weapon is automatically reloaded X% of their magazine per second while holstered. Depending on how many of mods you have equipped, changes the percentage of rounds loaded. The more mods, the more rounds. This cannot be upgraded like you would a typical mod. This is only upgraded by the amount of mods that you have. For the mecha mod sets, your Kurobo, which is a dog-like companion, marks a target every X seconds for Y seconds. Killing this marked target spreads any status effects on the target to all other targets within Z meters. So, like the previous mod, it scales differently depending on how many mods you have equipped, with having 4 mods reducing your cooldown to 15 seconds, the mark duration being 12 seconds, and the spread radius being 30 meters. Finally, TechSec, your companion, notably your Kavat's companion, marks a zone every X seconds that inflict damage to enemies within. And like the other mods, the fourth one being the strongest, your zone radius is increased by 12 meters, cooldown is reduced to 15 seconds, and the damage per second is 200 at maximum mods. Now with set mods, every different mod does a different thing, and I'll let you discover that on your own to see if you like to chase any of these set mods. With all that information out the way, you can now do your bounties. All you need to do is get 2,500 rep. That's all you need to get the drill. You don't necessarily need to fully do your standing. However, if you'd like to do your standing and rank up these vendors, having a maximum reputation with these vendors is how you're going to do so. If you'd like to pursue that, go ahead, but I will not say it is a requirement as of right now. Do note that you can fail, and it's okay if you fail. Everyone does eventually. The difference is if you give up. Sometimes you just need to remod your character, or maybe you need to take things a little bit slower and go to a lower difficulty. Or sometimes you just get screwed by bad RNG. In that case, run it back. Now that you've finished your quest on Fortuna alongside getting your drill, you can either continue to the Mercury Junction or you can go to Cetus. Right now, we're going to go to Cetus, given that's what I said earlier in the video. However, you don't need to follow this video one-to-one. On Cetus, it'll be similar to Fortuna. You'll be introduced with a cutscene, and you'll be in a hub world. In this world, you can talk to vendors. Our priority is going to be talking to Kanzu, and then we're going to do a personal favor for him, aka the start of Saya's Vigil. This is required to unlock Cetus as a complete destination, similar to how we unlocked Fortuna. Again, I won't spoil this quest, and I'll let you enjoy it. Alrighty, editing Calb here. So I ran into an issue in the middle of my quest, and I actually had spoken to another player about a similar issue that they ran into while running Saya's Vigil. It seems randomly in this quest you just get a very dark screen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my game and see if that fixes it. Alrighty, assuming you have completed the Cetus quest, you have now done all of the destination quests that you have access to at the start of the game. What you should work on now is going to Venus and making your way to Mercury. If you haven't done that yet, this will be the time to do it. And upon doing that, you'll unlock 2 new quests, Once Awakened and Call of the Kurobo. Once Awakened is the only required quest that you need to do. However, you should also do Call of the Kurobo. That gives you your first organic companion that you can have. And that will be the end of today's video. This video is going to be a bit shorter because I do want to keep it simple for you. We went through a lot of information and we're talking about quests from Earth, Venus, Mercury, and making our way to Mars. As a bit of homework, I want you to get yourself ready for Mars, as that's where the next video will begin. Things that you need to do to be ready. There is no MR requirement. I'm MR1 still, and you can just go to the Mars junction at this level. What you need to do is unlock this junction, the Earth junction, obviously, and all the requirements for this junction. Though I do recommend that if you have any side quests, you complete them before continuing. For example, I still haven't finished Hall of the Corabo, so that's what I'm going to start next, in between this episode and the next one. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Is that an MR5? Oh, I thought that was a Revenant. Daggett. Well, no, that is Revenant. What the fuck, dude?
Uh-oh.
Who gave this MR5 Revenant?
Sit here. You beat the game.
How am I playing with an MR1 that has a Zaku? This guy literally bought Zaku? What?
Bought it with plat. Was that one thing? You gotta buy it.
You gotta buy Hildren with plat.
Right off the bat. Make a new account, buy Hildren. Your shit's bricked.
I know more than you. I was like, I guarantee you don't.
Your shit's bricked.